Now, the Hunt Palmer Show.
Yes! I feel like I've been waiting for this my entire life.
You're listening to the Hunt Palmer Show on 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge.
Jolly good fun. Jolly good.
Locking down the middle of the day.
America's favorite daytime fun show.
Live from the Mercedes-Benz of Baton Rouge studio. This is Hunt Palmer.
Hour 2, Tuesday edition of the Hunt Palmer Show, presented by Pluckers Wing Bar. 2 locations in Baton Rouge, Nicholson just south of campus, and Bluebonnet in front of the Mall of Louisiana. I'll be the Nicholson location tonight, just after LSU's exhibition basketball game for a little sports trivia, 8:30. Come on by and see us, win some gift cards. It's always fun on Tuesday night to be watching the World Series and some football as well. Speaking of football, let's talk college football playoff. And our conversation has shifted here in Baton Rouge regarding the college football playoff as LSU takes its second loss. Now, one of those losses is out of the conference, and we'll talk about that, but it leaves LSU in the race in the Southeastern Conference. But for the purpose of the discussion now that we will have, LSU must run the table. So every hypothetical that we toss out involves LSU running the table, because if LSU does not run the table, LSU will not be in the college football playoff. Agreed? Agreed. So let's just discuss LSU as a 10-2 team with losses to USC and to Texas A&M. What I find interesting about the college football playoff picture is that the only teams really stubbing their toe are in the SEC. Alabama losing at Vanderbilt is stubbing your toe. LSU losing to a USC team that can't win a game is stubbing your toe. Those are bad losses. Tennessee going to Arkansas and losing that game, that is stubbing your toe. Now, it's your only loss, but it is stubbing your toe. And then Ole Miss losing to Kentucky at home is stubbing your toe. Those are losses against inferior opponents that you could term bad losses. And I start to look around the rest of the conference, and outside of Notre Dame, who absolutely stubbed their toe on Northern Illinois, but in the other conferences, you're not seeing that. Clemson's loss is to Georgia. It was ugly, but it's to Georgia. Ohio State's loss is at Oregon. That's not a death sentence. Kansas State lost to undefeated BYU. Now, they got rocked, but that's their only loss to a team that is undefeated at this point. So you look around, and you're looking at a bunch of teams that are either undefeated or have a good loss. And LSU, at best, is going to be sitting there with 2 losses. So I'll start to comb through the conferences, and we'll start in the ACC. Miami's 8-0. We talked about Clemson, 6-1. And then you've got Pittsburgh and SMU, who will play this week in what could be an elimination game, certainly would be for SMU, maybe is for Pitt, but Pitt also plays Clemson on November the 16th in Pittsburgh, so maybe they work their way back into the discussion. We're only talking at large here. We're not talking about a team that wins the conference because you're already in at that point. That's not worth a discussion.
Well, here's what is interesting though about Pitt though is what if they do lose to SMU and then win out, make the conference championship game and then lose? That's when it becomes a question.
That it does, and it's a question of that's how much do you. How bad's the SMU loss? That's hard for me to discern. How much worse is losing to SMU than losing to USC? I know what the records say, but I don't know how different that is. But the ACC still, to me, feels like a 2-team league. I don't think Miami, Clemson, and Pittsburgh are getting in the college football playoff. It could happen. That scenario works out where Clemson runs the table, so does Miami outside of the loss to Clemson. And then Pitt is 11-1, doesn't get into the championship game. And then Miami is a 1-loss at-large, and Clemson is a 1-loss champion. That I could see that being 3. But again, you need someone to stub their toe if you're LSU like everyone in the SEC is doing, but nobody in this league's doing. In the Big 12, you got BYU undefeated, Iowa State undefeated, and K-State with one loss to BYU. Like, there's no one's lost to Oklahoma State yet here who hasn't won a league game. Like, there's not a bad loss. So what I'm getting at as we continue to pick through this conference by conference is like, what is a 2-loss LSU with a loss to USC and a loss on the road at A&M and wins over Ole Miss and Bama? How does that stack up against a 1-loss non-champion from the Big 12 or the ACC? Like, that's the crux of this. And I just don't know that we have enough hard data to form a true opinion. Like, we've watched them do the 4-team thing, and we've watched injuries impact things, and we've watched conference championship losses impact things, and I don't know how apples to apples that is with 12. You go to the Big 10. Illinois is finally done. We can scratch them off the list. They lose their second game. But Oregon's undefeated. Indiana's undefeated. Penn State's undefeated. And Ohio State has one loss to an undefeated. You see the difference between the Big 10 and the SEC, where you got Kentucky losses and Arkansas losses and USC losses? Vanderbilt losses? Like, those, I feel like, are going to matter. And yes, we also have wins in Austin, Texas. Wins over Ole Miss. Bama beat Georgia. Like, you got to weigh those too. I'm just not comfortable and confident telling you exactly how all that matters. I feel like as I sit here and we're just getting to November, and by the time we play meaningful football this weekend, we'll be in November. I feel like big wins are going to be rewarded, 1, and 2, not everybody is going to hold on to these 0-1 losses. There will be teams that get eliminated. LSU and Bama will eliminate themselves. Pittsburgh and SMU may eliminate themselves. Iowa State and Kansas State play in the season finale. They may eliminate one another. But you're going to need another loss for those teams somewhere else. And you're kind of running out of weeks to pin 2 losses on everybody. Like, we're not going to pin 2 losses on Miami, Clemson, BYU, Iowa State, Kansas State, Oregon, Indiana, Penn State, Ohio State, and then Tennessee, Georgia, Texas, and A&M. Like, that's a lot of teams that still have to lose a game or two, and I don't think all of them are. You just have to hope as an LSU fan, as we sit here, that some of them lose, that you personally take care of Ole Miss and Alabama to knock them out, that Georgia takes care of Tennessee, and the committee thinks that your wins over Ole Miss and Alabama and Vanderbilt and Florida stand tall.
And then, of course, you have the Notre Dame problem.
Notre Dame is a problem. You're going to probably have to ask. The big result on the Notre Dame side of things is what?
They're winning against Texas A&M.
No, in the future.
Oh, USC.
USC. There's something there where USC beat you both, and Northern Illinois is a worse loss. Okay, who's your best win? You did go to College Station and win. What's next? Navy,
Army.
Yeah, I mean, it's semantics. It's fun. And look, I want to be very clear about this. This is good. Like, this is a good thing. And I'm going to write a column about this at some point, maybe this week, maybe next Monday when I've been writing some columns for .net. LSU and Alabama have played monumentally important games over the course of the last 20 years. Of course, everyone points to 2011. You can point to 2012 where the SEC West was still in the balance. You can go a couple of years later to 2015 in Tuscaloosa when Leonard Fournette there went there undefeated to play a 1-loss Alabama team. Like, and those games featured higher ranked LSU and Alabama teams because they had 0 or 1 loss. And that's what makes college football so great, is that game's got so much importance attached to it. Because you got 1 loss or 0 loss and you have to win this regular season game. And there are many people that said, well, if you put 12 teams in the playoff, you're devaluing those games. Well, guess what? Neither LSU nor Alabama is sitting here today feeling like they've got a great chance to win the national championship. But next Saturday is massive because somebody walks out of there done, and the other one walks out of here going, okay, I got to beat who now? I could do that.
And I've got 2 or 3 really good wins.
And if you were in the 4-team playoff, and you were a 2-loss Alabama and a 2-loss LSU, and you were looking at a no-loss A&M in league play, 1-loss Texas, 1-loss Georgia, 1-loss Tennessee, you'd be going, well, I can't get to Atlanta. I can't get in. It's over. But it's not over. That's awesome. And I get how much fun the 11 Bama game was, and I get how much fun the 12 Bama game was until it wasn't, and I get how much fun the Fournette game was until it wasn't, and like, all that's great, but this is awesome that you've lost 2 games, you are a flawed team, but you've got a fighting chance, and you've set up what would have been a dud in Tiger Stadium, relatively speaking, and now it's huge. I think that's awesome.
Yeah, it really is, and the point about the not other all these other conferences, none of the teams have stubbed their toe is interesting to me, because I think we're going to see in the next few years with this 12-team playoff, it's going to be I'm going to be curious to see what the committee decides to do with teams that get to their conference game with 1 or 2 losses. 2, if you get to the conference game with 2 and you lose, there's probably no chance. But it will be interesting to see how. Because people always, even 14 playoffs, people always talked about sometimes teams get punished for making their conference championship game. I personally think teams shouldn't get punished for making the conference championship. Like, it doesn't make much sense to me why you were getting punished for losing a game that you got to because you did so well in the season. So I'll
play devil's advocate. It's the term risk reward. That's your risk in qualifying. Not that you have any say. You can't not go.
No.
But you also have a massive reward. You as a 2-loss team, if you go, can get a bye.
Yeah.
That's a huge deal. So in any year where you got 2 losses, and I don't really want to play Georgia, to be quite frank.
No.
That doesn't sound great, but you've got a chance to go there and earn a bye. And now you've got a real chance to make a push. So there is a reward there that I think is worthwhile. But to the point like that you made right before that, it's like, I just don't think there are a lot of years where we can sit here in November and Pitt and Iowa State are undefeated and haven't lost that stupid game at Texas Tech.
Yeah, it really never happens.
Lost that stupid game at Boston College or whatever. I'm assuming they're coming because they always do, but they certainly haven't yet.
They haven't.
And so I'm curious. These teams just keep winning. And this week you'll see Pitt and SMU, and I'm assuming that we'll see a little bit of movement there. Miami's tried.
They have
tried to have that loss, and they just can't quite get to the finish line losing. They find a way to win.
And by the way, Pitt has too. I mean, Pitt almost lost to North Carolina.
Yeah.
I mean, Pitt lost to California. They had a close game against West Virginia, close game against Cincinnati. They've won a lot of close games, too.
I'll tell you who's not about to stub their toe is Indiana. They're beating the brakes off everybody.
They are. It's probably maybe one of the best stories in college football this year.
I mean, we've talked about their schedule a bunch. I think a lot of people are familiar with it. But it's at Michigan State, who stinks, Michigan, who stinks, at Ohio State, where they'll probably lose, and then Purdue, who's awful. So it's like I don't. Michigan could beat them. But.
Yeah, one interesting thing we were talking about the Big Ten, about how there's so many teams that haven't lost or only lost one. There was actually a scenario. I saw this on Twitter. There is a scenario where if Indiana, Oregon, and Penn State all finished, because they don't play each other. If they all finish undefeated in at the end of the conference schedule, Oregon would be left out. Oregon would be undefeated but not make their conference championship game because of they have to go to so many tiebreakers, and so eventually they would be undefeated non-conference
It'd be the auto 5 seed hosting Boise again.
Yeah, that's just crazy to me that you could be undefeated and not make your conference championship.
That's what happens when we start having 16-team conferences.
Yeah,
quite frankly, like you can't play everybody, and that's just the way it. Way it goes. All right, that's a look at the college football playoff picture. We'll get more information this week as LSU sits on the sideline and watches. It's the Hunt Palmer Show.
The Hunt Palmer Show.
Genesis of Baton Rouge. Do you hate going to the car dealership to buy a car? You don't like the experience. You feel pressured. It's a lot of time consumed out of your day. Maybe it's on the weekend. It's just not your thing. Well, make it easier. Genesis of Baton Rouge will make it easier. You can check out the entire lot online at genesisbatonrouge.com. If you decide you see something you like, give them a call. One of their brand ambassadors will drive that car to you at home, at work, wherever the case may be. They'll go with you on a test drive, give you all the information that you need. And if you decide, this is the one for me, they can do an e-contract, digital delivery. You never set foot at the dealership. Now, I would recommend setting foot at the dealership because it's incredible. Right there, PQ and Airline, first-class facility. But they make it easy for you. It's a luxury brand, and with the luxury line of vehicles comes incredible perks. You got a 10-year, 100,000-mile warranty. 10-year, 100,000-mile warranty. 3 years, complimentary maintenance. You hate getting the oil changed, hate the wiper blades, cabin air filter. They'll come get your car, they'll handle it, and they'll bring it right back to you. That's the kind of service that you're going to get from the folks at Genesis of Baton Rouge. If you're in the market for a vehicle and you haven't thought about Genesis, which is likely because they haven't been here all that long, put them on your list. Give them a try. I promise you will not be disappointed. The entire line of vehicles right there online at genesisofbatonrouge.com. Genesisofbatonrouge.com.
You're listening to The Hunt Palmer Show, brought to you by Plucker's Wing Bar.
Playing quarterback in the NFL, tough as a rookie. Spencer Rattler has learned that the hard way, got benched. Tough go for him. Jayden Daniels not having as many issues as Spencer Rattler. In fact, everything seems to be coming up Jayden these days outside of the rib injury. Almost held out against Chicago. Still, he threw for over 300 yards and had the Hail Mary that won the game against number 1 pick Caleb Williams and the Bears. And because of that, you got Jayden Daniels up to the 5th best odds to win the National Football League's MVP at this point. He's all the way down to 14-1 to be the most valuable player, not rookie, not most outstanding rookie, offensive rookie of the year, to be the MVP of the league. He is down to 14-1. So your chances to score on that are pretty much toast. If you were going to get him for rookie of the year, you probably needed to get him in May. If you were going to get him for MVP, you probably needed to get him in late September because now you're not going to get a huge bang for your buck on that. There's a lot of shifting over the last week. You saw Kirk Cousins go up from 66-1 to 33-1 to be MVP. You saw Matthew Stafford go from 200-1 to 100-1. On the flip side, Baker Mayfield and Caleb Williams in losses went from 55-1 to 125-1 to be MVP. Aaron Rodgers still somehow has reasonable odds to be the MVP. He was 100-1. Now he's 200-1, even though he never throws for any yards and they never win. He's still right there on the board. But Josh Allen is the favorite to be the MVP. Jayden Daniels is right up there at 5th, and right there in Washington with him, Dan Quinn, the new favorite for NFL Coach of the Year. As far as Offensive Rookie of the Years go, it was a pretty sizable shift over the weekend with Jayden Daniels and Caleb Williams. It was pretty close, but now Jayden Daniels, a slam dunk there. You're talking about plus 750 for Caleb Williams. He was plus 105 last week. So that's like a 70% difference in what you were going to get on a return there. You're going to get less than 1-1 on Jayden Daniels to be the Offensive Rookie of the Year at this point. So Bo Nix is creeping up. Ladd McConkey had a big day against the Saints. He crept up a little bit. Drake May bottomed out there. But Jayden Daniels looks like a runaway winner. And the question is not whether or not he's going to win Rookie of the Year, because I think he will if he stays healthy. The question is, can he win MVP? And can the Redskins, there it is, can the Commanders be a real threat in the NFC? I think most people would look at the Lions as the cream of the crop here. But San Francisco has shown some vulnerability. Philly played better last week, but we'll see how that goes in a couple of weeks when they match up. The South, I think Tampa and Atlanta are decent. I think Washington's every bit as good. And then you look out west outside of San Francisco, okay, Seattle's okay. They played well. Green Bay, okay.
NFC West is going to be really interesting, man. You've got 3 teams at 4-4 and the Rams at 3-4. The Rams seem to be like they want to rebuild. Yeah. They want to blow it up, but they just can't. They actually have won. So I don't know.
When you play the Saints.
Yeah, it does help. But man, it's going to, the Cardinals, 49ers, Seahawks. I feel like the 49ers, obviously losing McCaffrey, just completely changes their season.
Right.
But that's going to be really, really tough to pan out and see who actually wins.
Would you say
that
Washington's in the top 3 teams in the NFC by your eye, not by the standings, by what you see? You're going to put the Lions in there. You're going to put the Packers in there. You're going to put the 49ers in there, Philly if you want. Do you think that Washington is a top 3 team in the NFC?
I think they're absolutely a top 5 team in the SEC. 3 maybe. I think 3. You could make a really good case for 3. You really could, because the Eagles have stubbed their toe a few times. The Lions look like clearly the best team in the NFC right now. The Packers have looked good too, but man, it's really tight. I think it's really tight at the top in terms of the top 3 or 4 teams. Man, the Commanders could certainly make a case. I would say they're probably 4 or 5. But you could easily say that they're the 3rd best team in the NFC right now. So
obviously Washington being a bad team last year, you catch a little bit of a break from a scheduling perspective, because of how things set up, and that's a good thing. But still, everyone that I talked to, we talked to the Washington Commanders beat writer before the season started. We talked to Denton Day, who covers the team and then obviously pulls for the team as well. And nobody really felt like Washington was in a place to compete realistically in year one. And then all of a sudden you look up and you have to change your tune on that to this point. Now, schedule-wise moving forward, it gets pretty tough after this week. You got to go to New York this week, and you should win that game against the Giants. Then you got the Steelers, who I don't think are great, but they're playing better.
Well. Russell Wilson. They've got
a good coach, and they got an elite pass rusher, and they win games. But then you're at Philly, which is going to be a massive game in prime time. Then you got Dallas, who is up and down. And then you get 2 weeks where you ought to make some hay, quite frankly. You got the Titans, and then you're at New Orleans to play the Saints, who at that point should have Derek Carr back, but we'll see. Then you got Eagles and Falcons, and then you got the Cowboys. So it's still difficult because you still got 2 Eagles and 2 Dallases to play, and that's your division.
But the Cowboys, I mean, the Cowboys have looked they're 3-4, but if you talk to Taylor Sharp, a noted Cowboys fan here at the station, that they have not looked good.
No, they haven't, but I still just consider them functional.
Yeah. At Dallas, you would think, but I don't know, man. It's just so hard to judge them because the Saints went in there and blew them out in their own stadium, and then they also
look. I mean, the only game that Washington has lost since week 1.
Was at Baltimore.
Was a 1-score loss at Baltimore.
Yeah.
So, it's they haven't beaten Murderers Row. They did go beat the Bengals. And then the rest of it is not, super enthusiastic. It's the Cardinals, it's the Browns, it's the Panthers, it's the Bears.
Yeah, the Cardinals are also another team that have been up and down this year. They're currently tied for the
Washington beat them 42-14.
Yeah. And then they turn around and beat the 49ers, and then they beat the Dolphins this last week. So they're kind of been an up and down team, but again, it's like it's all in front of the Commanders, no question about it. I mean, they have a solid chance in the division, and they have a really good chance at a wild card.
I'm pulling for them. I hope they can get it done. We'll see. We'll talk some more NFL with Sharief, Ishaq, WDSU. Talking Saints when we come back.
The Hunt Palmer Show.
LeBears Baton Rouge, make it your game day headquarters all season long. LSU off this weekend. If you want to spend Saturday watching all the college football at ESPN Bet inside LeBears, go ahead and do it. You can watch and wager and dine in person at ESPN Bet, and you can bet against me. Cover 5 SEC contest. You download the Cover 5 app, enter that code LABRSEC24. I've been hovering around 15th place, 16th place, 18th place, which is top 20%, but we got to get better. You can compete. Probably too late to get in on the season-long run, but weekly there are prizes to be won as well. If you're not a member, get that Penn Play app today. LeBears Baton Rouge, your live sports headquarters. Must be 21 years or older. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-589-9966 for help.
This is the Hunt Palmer Show, brought to you by Plucker's Wing Bar.
Tigers are off this weekend. Saints are not. They'll go to Carolina, play the Panthers, who are not very good. The Saints, not very good right now either. For those who don't know how this works, when we have a guest on during the break, Beck picks up the phone, dials our guest, and says hello and gets them ready to come on the air with me. Appreciate all his hard work there. But it sounds like, based on the interaction that just went on between Sharief and Beck, that Sharief was being very unpleasant to Jacob based on the performance of the Saints over the last month and a half. Is that true, Sharief, that you were unpleasant when you picked up the phone?
I blame it on both LSU and the Saints this week.
Well, none of that was good, and I had to talk about it for 2 hours yesterday. So now is your time to talk about it for 15 minutes. Did you give the Saints much of a chance going to L.A., realizing that they were getting some of their offense back?
Yeah, I honestly, I really did. I mean, I thought maybe having Chris and Taysom back in the lineup as well, Cesar Ruiz, would inject some kind of life into the offense and help Spencer Rattler. And boy, was I ever wrong. I think it went downhill immediately on that first drive. I don't know if it was after the first drive. Whenever they had the safety and got the ball and punted from the Chargers 47. That was disgusting football. Like, you're a 5-game losing streak, and you couldn't line Taysom up to go for it on 4th and 1 is a reason why you've lost 5 straight games. You just had no heart to go for it, and it's just. I've been hot take tweeting, which honestly is realistic tweeting the last few days about this franchise. We'll get into it more, but yeah, when it comes to the game, that was a disaster.
Well, I don't really have any interest in talking about the game because it sucked and they lost and everybody knows the story. So let's talk about the big picture stuff with the franchise. I mean, what's your biggest point of contention? What is your biggest thought?
I think the biggest problem is Mickey Loomis, and I continue to say Mickey Loomis is the big problem. Everyone can kick and scream about Dennis Allen. Yes, he deserves to be gone, but the person who makes the decision also needs to be held accountable at some point in time. And it goes beyond the whole hire of Dennis Allen. It goes with he and Jeff Ireland have both made some very poor decisions when it comes to free agency and the draft since 2018, and they've allowed more misses than hits in the draft to happen, and they've let the roster age out. They've let the roster just become overly injured because they cannot find any depth the right way. It's just been a very bad combination of things that at some point in time, you got to stop blaming the players and the coaches. Your front office has to take a brunt of the blame at some point. You can't just go on WWL radio and saying this and that you have to look beyond the results. It's not about the results. You can't tell that to the media when the season's over. If and you were close, that stuff just doesn't, sit well with the fan base. At some point in time, someone has to be held accountable. That's not the head coach. And I truly think that somebody above Mickey has to do something. I know Gail Benson is giving the team to Dennis Lauscher and Mickey Loomis and them, but at some point you have to look at the product and say, this isn't good enough. This is bad. We cannot let it regress to the 2005 and the 99 days with Ditka and then Hazlitt and Katrina. That's just, you cannot have come this far to go backwards, and that's where they are headed right now.
What's your confidence level that anything like that's going to change?
Nothing. Honestly, not. I mean, I just think that they want to stick it to everyone and show them that they can prove everyone wrong. I mean, it's loyalty to a default. They're not going to do any drastic changes whatsoever. I mean, I've been wrong before, but this is the one that I don't think I'll be wrong about. I think Mickey isn't going anywhere unless he just retires. He isn't going anywhere. He could do no wrong. They can go 2-15, and I wouldn't be surprised if everyone came back next year. I mean, that's just my gut is just feeling it that way, that they are not making any drastic changes. I think that Mickey wants to ride it out until they can somehow get this, turn over the roster, hit the reset button, and think that they can rebuild it again that way instead of completely just gutting it out and going the direction of some of the other teams who have not come back from resets. So, look, I don't know. I feel like this franchise is living in 2009, 15 years later. They have to, at some point, forget that it's, that is done. Drew and Sean are gone. You have erased everything they've done in the span of 4 years. Get over it, move forward, make the changes that are necessary to make your team a better franchise.
What's your interest level in the last 8 games of the schedule, whatever they have left?
Honestly, I really don't have any interest level whatsoever because what are they doing here? What are you doing? You're going to play to get to 7-8 wins and ruin your draft picks, and then you're going to get the same things I just told you a second ago. we're close, and if we weren't injured. You know how many times I hear that?
Yeah.
You know how many times you got to hear that? Ifs and we were closest. It's just outrageous how many times you got to hear that. And at some point, the players are kind of getting sick and tired of the losing. You can just see that it's building. The frustration is building. Just, things have to change, man.
Elaborate on that. You talk to the players post game. You talk to the players after practice. You talk to Dennis Allen. Like, what's the energy like within the players? I'm not talking about the fan base. I'm talking about the team.
They're sick of it. They kind of feel the same way the fans do. They're sick of it. They're sick of the losing. They're tired of saying and not doing. I mean, that's the problem, though, Hunt. Actions speak louder than words. At some point, you have to start doing that and stop saying. I've told you this for 3 years now. It's too much saying and not enough doing. And I think that, they're stuck in this rut. They just don't know how to get out of it. They just can't get out of their own way. I mean, they just cannot get out of the losing ways. And this is bad, man. I mean, look, this is about as bad as it was whenever I was covering the games at WAFB as a photographer in Tiger Stadium in 2005. This is, man, look, this is some bad football, man. It is top to bottom bad. I mean, I understand the injuries, but they even know that. The players know that the injuries are no longer the excuses. They've got to kick the injury excuse to the curb, man. It's just not working out, and they are just frustrated.
You're from that city. Have you seen the fan base feel like this before?
Yeah, I'm telling you. Social media didn't really exist in 2005 like it does now. I mean, it's Twitter's burning, man. I mean, social media is burning. I mean, fans are upset because they were told that it was going to be better. Things would be improved with Kubiak. Things would improve, defensively. But it's just, no. Fans are upset, man. It's hard for me to tell you how mad they were compared to 2005 because really what are we judging it off of? Just face-to-face interaction? Now we have the social media. Now you can see it everywhere. I mean,
well, also in 2005, no one in black and gold had ever seen anything good. So this is you now know what's possible, and it makes things worse, in my estimation.
Yeah, it's way worse, in my opinion. I just think because of what you built after 2005, and then now you go from 05 to 20, 06 to 20, and then now you're dropping backwards to what you were under Mike Ditka and then Jim Haslett for that Hurricane Katrina season. I almost have to throw that season away. I mean, it was a different circumstance.
Yeah.
Man, you have a natural disaster like that, but then you want to go back to 1999. It's funny that you say that. We're talking about 99. I was just looking at the Hail Mary from the Cleveland Browns game, which is 25-year anniversary, Halloween Day. It's literally gotten that bad. You just don't know what's going to happen against what bad team. I'm looking at that game and thinking, wow, maybe the Panthers might beat them again, beat them Sunday. Another bad team like the Cleveland Browns or with Tim Couch in 1999. I just don't know. I mean, things have gotten that bad, huh? Now, can they win a few games and Eric comes back? Yeah, of course. But where are they going? They are going nowhere.
I don't think they're going anywhere either. You think they win on Sunday?
They better hope they win on Sunday. I mean, it could get pitchforks will be out even more. I don't know if they'll do anything about it. I think it gets ugly and they lose 3 straight. And Jameis is the team that's gets you to 7, 8, 9 losses in a row. And Jameis is the guy who beat you that 9th time before the bye week. Then I could see the changes happening. But does it really matter? I mean, James Hurst said the same thing I said. Why does it matter if you fire Dennis today or fire him next week? The season's already pretty much cooked. I mean, what are you doing? I mean, you're not accomplishing anything. Roster isn't changing. GM isn't changing. Your assistant GM isn't changing. Nothing is changing if you fired a head coach. It's the same roster.
It's a daunting spot. It feels, like I said on Monday, years away from where they could dig this thing out. But we'll see. Sharief Ishaq covering it all down there in New Orleans. Sorry it was such a crappy conversation. Maybe we'll do better next week.
Honestly, even if they beat the Panthers, doesn't even really matter once again.
Have a great weekend, Sharief.
All right, man. Hopefully we beat Alabama in 2 weeks.
We'll talk about it next week. That's Sharief Ishaq, WDSU down in New Orleans. I can't say it any better than that. It's it doesn't feel like you just gotta fix your offensive line. It doesn't feel like, well, they gotta get better at corner. It doesn't feel like man, if they could just fix the red zone issues or stop turning the ball over. It just feels like the whole operation is in big, big trouble. Like, that's what it feels like. And it doesn't feel like there's a lot of hope that this can be turned around in any sort of short order based on the contracts on the books, the players on the roster, and the people in charge. It just doesn't. And Sharief talked about it there. Matt went on a long rant about it yesterday. Like, I was a little more mild-mannered in my approach yesterday, but I don't have as much passion for the black and gold as Matt does. It's just, things are tough right now in Saints land. So thanks for Sharief to giving us a little bit of time. Tuesday's show is brought to you by Pluckers. We'll come back and close it out next.
The Hunt Palmer Show.
Evolve Physical Therapy in Sports, evolvept.com. They're on Starring near Highland Road. Robbie Bolton and his team, 20 years of experience in physical therapy. If you're in pain and you want to get back to being your active self, whether that's running, whether that's playing youth sports, whether that's playing golf, whether that's playing pickleball, whether that's working out, and you just can't because you got an injury, no matter how that injury was sustained. Car accident, sports injury, hurt it sleeping, picking up a kid, whatever the case may be, they'll help you out. And it's going to be hands-on from start to finish. You don't walk in there, they sit you in the corner and say, here's your exercises, we'll talk in 20 minutes, hopefully things are feeling better. They're going to be with you. Soft tissue manipulation, cupping, dry needling, scraping, all that is done on-site, hands-on at Evolve Physical Therapy and Sports. Check them out online, evolvept.com. As I mentioned, they're on Starring near Highland Road. It's Evolve Physical Therapy and Sports, evolvept.com.
This is the Hunt Palmer Show, brought to you by Pluckers Wing Bar.
Congratulations to Tyler Hunt from Baton Rouge. Tyler is the Week 9 winner in our 2024 College Football Pick'em Contest and wins a Hooters wing party for 10 people. Don't forget to make your picks for round 10 by this Thursday at noon. Weekly winners will receive a Hooters wing party for 10 people, and the first place season-long champion will receive a 75-inch 4K flat screen TV and soundbar, plus free Hooters wings for an entire year. It's the 2024 College Football Pick'em presented by Hooters.
Hope to see some folks out at the PMAC tonight. LSU exhibition basketball versus Loyola of New Orleans, an NAIA school. It's an exhibition game, doesn't count, but tonight at 7 o'clock. And there's going to be a lot of really cool things to do. They're calling it Boo Up Night. They've got free candy for kiddos. They've got a pumpkin decorating contest, a costume contest, and some pregame activities in front of the Maravich Center right there between the ramps. It's complimentary. It's free. It's free to get in, no matter who you are. No charge for admission at all. And they also have their Beat the Buzzer promotion that they're going to do every Tuesday this year for Tuesday games. So doors open an hour before tip, so that's 6 o'clock. So from 6 to 6:50, almost an hour before the tip-off, you've got Tiger Dogs for $2.50, nachos $2.75, burgers for $4, an 85-ounce bag of popcorn for $2.50. Souvenir soda, 32-ounce for $3.50. They've also got happy hour pricing on select beers for $5.25. So good pricing on concessions. A lot of things for the kiddos to do. They can come in costume as well for the game tonight. Exhibition against Loyola New Orleans. It's at 7 o'clock at the Maravich Center. I've got a preview piece up at LouisianaSports.net right now, and we'll be writing about it after the game this evening. So we'll see if we can see out there at the PMAC tonight. The Tigers will start their season coming up next week. They always start the week of Alabama, and their season opener will be on Wednesday against Louisiana Monroe. That'll also be a 7 o'clock tip-off. All right, let's play some Take It or Leave It. Back.
Alrighty, first one here, as they said at the top of Sports Center, Anthony Richardson has been benched by the Colts in favor of Joe Flacco, who just seems to be at different teams the last few years and play really well. Take it or leave it.
I'll take it. You know why? Not because he benched himself, because he was tired, which is not a great look and not a great quote after the game. But that's not why he should be benched. Did you see his stat line this week?
Yeah, it was bad.
10 of 32 with a touchdown, a pick, and he was sacked 5 times.
And the touchdown was wide open. The guy was completely wide open. There's no one close to him.
10 of 32, touchdown, a pick, and 5 sacks. I'm shocked that a guy who wasn't good at college isn't good in the NFL. What a shock.
Yeah, but Honey can throw it 70 yards.
Yeah, and he can run real fast. Not good.
Next one here, Clemson's baseball team will be playing the Savannah Bananas in an exhibition game next week. Take it or leave it.
I'll take it. Can I be candid? Can I be frank here?
Yes.
I've never seen the Savannah Bananas.
Yeah?
And I don't even know what trick shot entertainment baseball looks like. I'm assuming these guys are decent, but I don't know how you would make baseball tricky.
Well, you should go watch a video then.
I need to.
They do a lot of pretty funny stuff. But it's
do they
entertaining.
hit home runs?
Yeah, they do.
Okay.
But it is legitimately just the Globetrotters on a baseball field.
I get half court shots and dribbling between your legs. Do they throw behind the back pitches?
Yeah, they do all kinds of crazy stuff like pitching and stuff. They do dances and stuff and yeah, it's a good time. I'm not sure what they're gonna do
against Clemson?
playing a college team because they usually play the Generals or whoever like the Globetrotters did. So I'm not sure how that's gonna work, but we'll see next week. All right, last one here. When asked about rules he'd like to see changed, Celtics head coach Joe Mazzulla said, quote, "The biggest thing that we rob people of from an entertainment standpoint is you can't fight anymore. I wish you could bring back fighting. I just don't get why some sports are allowed to clear the benches. Take it or leave it."
Leave it. That's stupid. That's a stupid thing to say. We don't need teams fighting in order to have a quality product.
No, I don't think so.
I think we can leave that alone.
I will say, I'm not going to defend anything he said there, but I will say, though, that obviously the level of, physicality in the NBA,
yes.
Obviously the level of phicality has certainly been toned down in terms of what's allowed or not.
The animus between teams and players has gone away because they're all
friends.
Well, yeah, and they all play for every team.
Yeah.
And so, how are you going to develop a rivalry of 5 years when nobody sticks around, and then you got guys that play for both teams and they're switching every year, and I don't care about that. It doesn't matter to me. I don't need fights. I don't need teams to despise each other. I think it helps sometimes, but that day is over because we allow players in pro sports and college sports to just play for whoever they want.
Yeah.
NBA players I need to trade me now. NFL players I'm not going to play, just trade me. And then college, you just go in the portal and you just leave. And so you don't have that commitment to your organization or your university like you once did. And I can hear the argument that's a really bad thing, but it's certainly going to hurt teams fighting each other.
Yeah, probably not going to be a lot of rivalries.
I mean, Hester talks about those Florida games. They played the same guys every year. You don't do that anymore. Everybody's gone.
For the most part,
because the guys that are starting probably came from somewhere else and they go to the NFL, and you just leave and go. You played for 3 colleges.
I will push back a little bit, though. I do still think, though, that even with the players kind of not playing as long as they would, as long as they used to on the same team, I do still think that the spirit of rivalries is still there for certain games. I mean, obviously not as much. Yeah, the fan bases, yes, but I mean, the last week LSU Texas A&M game, the guys they had players fighting pregame. So there's still going to be animosity between teams. I think obviously it'll be a little bit tempered as well, but I'm not going to say that rivalries are just going to be dead now. But they certainly won't have the same effect they probably used to.
Yeah, I mean, I don't need my players to fight to feel like we're rivals. I'm okay with it.
Yeah.
If Joe Burrow and Jamar Jackson want to dap it up after the game and trade jerseys, I'm still not going to like the other team. That's for the fan base. The players it just doesn't exist like that anymore. That's it for Take It or Leave It. Fun show today. A little bit of a bye-week episode, I would say. Only spent really the first 15 minutes really diving into LSU football today. We'll do a little bit more as the week goes on. Brian Kelly meets with the media later today at 5 o'clock. He's also on the teleconference tomorrow. So on tomorrow's show, we'll definitely have some sound for you from Brian Kelly. But I opened the show talking about LSU dealing with running quarterbacks. You know what's left on the schedule. You know what happened on Saturday night. If you want to watch that, you can on YouTube at Hunt on LSU. You can certainly go back and catch it on demand as well. Matt McMahon, LSU head basketball coach, was with me at 1:15. Previewing tonight's exhibition game against Loyola New Orleans. Glenn West, go 24/7 at 1:30. In top of the hour, number 2, we talked about the college football playoff picture and kind of where LSU sits. And the interesting deal where the SEC, Big Bad Southeastern Conference, is the one that's got saddled with bad losses. Everybody else is kind of floating above that to this point as we get to November. What does that mean for LSU? I talked about it at the top of hour number 2. And Sharief Ishaq did not paint the rosiest picture of the New Orleans Saints at 2:30. If you want to listen to that, or watch it, you can on YouTube at Hunt on Saints. That's where our Saints content feeds to every single day. That's going to do it for us. If you missed any of the show, catch it on demand. 1045ESPN.com's on demand tab, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Google. Wherever you find your sound, you can always find us. I'll be at Pluckers tonight. Hope you will as well. 8:30 Nicholson location. That's going to drive you home next one after further view. We'll see you tomorrow, same time, same place, for a Wednesday edition of the Hunt Palmer Show.
The Hunt Palmer Show.
Highland Insurance Group, HighlandIG.com. You know that feeling of unease you get when that hurricane starts brewing in the Gulf, and there's just uncertainty around the next week of your life. Is the hurricane going to hit? Am I going to have power? Do I need to evacuate? What's my work schedule like? Do the kids have school? All that kind of stuff. Well, you can't eliminate all that at this part of the world, but you can eliminate the wonder if you're going to have power or not, because you can eliminate the issue with insurance as well. Highland Insurance Group, HighlandIG.com. Know that you've got the insurance, not when after the hurricane blows through, but beforehand. Know that you've got the proper coverage. Know that you've got the people behind you that are going to help you in the event that there is a catastrophe. The Highland Insurance Group, Jonathan Carver and his team can do that. They can deal with your group or employee benefits, and they can also help you with your property and casualty. Start that consultation, HighlandIG.com. It's the Highland Insurance Group right here in Baton Rouge. Find them online at HighlandIG.com.